All right, welcome back. Mr. Shem, today we're going to finish chapter 29. And because we're going to have a break for a week or two, at least a week, or at least 2 weeks, maybe 3, before we get back to learning. Because of Passover. All right, so we're talking about how to overcome the Yetzer Hara, how to overcome the Nefesh HaBahamis. So we said the problem is like this. The problem is the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. If I'm using too many Hebrew terms, please, interrupt me. The evil inclination comes to you and gives you an opinion. So you say, we learned it in the previous page. You tell them, until when are you going to come to me with stupidity? Be quiet. Right? You say in Brooklyn, shut up. Right? So and that's very good. But what happens if the Yetzer Hara said, I'm not going to be quiet. I still have my opinion. So the Alter Rebbe tonight is going to address, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you're thinking that holiness and anti-holiness have equal value. And it's not true. Holiness is light. Anti-holiness, sitra achra, the other side, is darkness. Is darkness a formidable foe to light? What is darkness? Darkness is the absence of light. The moment you turn on the light, darkness automatically dissipates. There's no resistance. It's a week of Pesach, you can say, hey, the Egyptians sat in darkness. It's a very good question. It says the Egyptians couldn't move from their place. Why couldn't they move from their place? It was pitch black, so you couldn't move from their place. The famous Medrash says that they were stuck in place. The darkness was so thick, they couldn't move. And the whole argument amongst Midrashim and commentaries, is it literal? What does it mean? Whatever. We're not getting into it. You're familiar with that, right?
No stars.
Yes,
no
and
lights,
it's actually
stars, moon, nothing. Total darkness.
It's a real
pitch.
thing.
Pitch black.
No, that's a real.
Not only that, not only that,
where it gets so black that it happens in some areas in California on the PCH,
on the
Pacific
Coast Highway, yeah.
and it becomes so black that really you have to just immediately either pull over or you have to keep going in fear of anyone behind you not seeing you and smashing into you.
Wow.
Because it's so black.
Tunnel black.
Yeah. By the way, the miracle was...
There was one rabbi that it gave this testimony that I'm handing over that basically said that it was so black that you can't see anything around you, and the only thing he knew to do was just at least keep moving because he knew that pulling over might mean that someone would smash into him.
Just keep moving. The crazy miracle was that the Jew standing next to the Egyptians, it was light. That was a crazy miracle. So for the Jew, Egyptian, light, dark. That was great. Anyway, so the...
We had our own personal spotlight.
Exactly, yeah. God says, I love you. Here's to looking at you, kid.
Mason on stage.
Yeah. So this is what the Alter Rebbe is going to say today. So the reason why this idea of berating your Yetzer Hara, your evil inclination, and calling it, filthy, and saying, when are you going to stand up to the truth, is because the Yetzer Hara isn't true. The Yetzer Hara it's a Ponzi scheme, so to speak. It's built on one thing after the other. The moment you take it out, it all crashes. Let's go. Bottom of 387 in the old print by the second of Adar, Mr. Ira.
397.
397. Vatam, and the reason why this works, the humbling of the spirit of the Sitra Achra, is effective in crushing it, because the truth is, ain't sure much as klal Sitra Achra. The Sitra Achra has no substance. That's why it's called darkness. Darkness doesn't have any substance to it. It automatically, and difference is, you could say ear is no resistance. Ear is resistant, right? When you're biking, there's something called biking. The whole argument is who goes forward. There is resistance. So that's why we have to contend with it. But the light, there is no resistance. It's immediately. The same thing is Same thing is, by the way, when Mashiach comes, it says that Hashem is going to remove the spirit of impurity from the world. What's He going to do? Is there going to be a proactive step to remove impurity? No. What's He going to do? Hashem is going to reveal godliness, and automatically the spirit of impurity is going to be gone. Same thing is, for example, stupidity. Why do you do something stupid? Because you're bored. When you're occupied, you automatically don't do something stupid. Yeah?
Okay.
When you're busy doing something, like you're busy working, whatever it is, you don't get into, that's why I always say, growing up in New York, the worst time is the summer. Get a bunch of kids, by 12 o'clock they're bored, right? And they got 8 o'clock until sundown, and the worst thing is you can have bored kids. So it says, and also the Sitra Achra. How can you say it has no substance? How does the Sitra Achra exist? Hashem gives it life. Although it has a lot of life. The Sitra Achra, the forces of impurity, they power everything that's called impure, like anything that's impure. But and anything that can't be elevated, and also the animal souls of the Jewish people. Why do they exist? It says that, in the words of Alter Rebbe, they don't exist because of themselves. What does that mean? In life, there's things we do as a means to an end. So the means is totally secondary, right? You have to make money. Right, so you teach, you do work in the airline. Everyone does but the goal is in order to provide. If I told you instead of doing this, right, you can do. If I told you can work instead of 8 hours a day, you can work 4 hours a day, make the same money, less effort, less stress. Would you do it? Yeah. Right. Let's say, because it's not so much about what you're doing, it's about why you're doing it. Unfortunately, we have some people who get so caught up in the what, and they forget about the why. Why is the Sitra Achra here? Is it here because it serves a purpose for itself? No. The whole reason why the Sitra Achra is here was in order to give us a challenge. It's like what the astronauts do in space. They need in order to exercise.
Elon Musk to rescue them?
Gravity.
Yeah, thank you.
Sophie's Jesse Owens over here.
Right. To exercise, they have these restrictors, resistance band. Why? Because if they were on Earth, they wouldn't need resistance band because gravity does it. So automatically, their muscles are functioning properly because gravity is there. But in space, the astronauts need the resistance band. So the only reason why the Sitra Achra is here is to offer us resistance. Yeah?
Isn't it similar to like plants? Like if you grow, you need wind, you need something. You need some turbulence. The strongest plants are the ones that grow under the harshest conditions.
Right.
Something in a controlled environment will be weak compared to something that.
Yeah. So
challenged.
Right. Exactly. Similarly, so the Sitra Achra offers us a chance to overcome the challenge, but it's not good in and of itself. It's only with the resistance that it offers.
Is Sitra Achra equal in everyone, or
No.
is it?
No.
Does it like on a reciprocal scale to how holy someone is how much
Exactly.
and
Like the higher heights you reach, the more.
No, the
Sitra
higher.
Achra, the deeper the Sitra Achra
Yeah.
will be.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all the same.
No,
It's
I
all
think
of the
it's
same
less.
energy.
No.
Wouldn't it?
It would be
No.
less.
No.
Are there variations?
No, wait,
Are there
no. I think
variants
The
of
temptation
Sitra
might be
Achra?
less.
everyone has their own needs. Hard. Number one. Number two, the greater potential you have, which means your soul comes from a much higher level, the greater potential for bad you are. So, for example, let me share with you a very interesting medrash. It says Avram Avinu was born into a terrible family. The medrash says that when the neshama of Avram Avinu came, like you have the lottery balls, when his neshama came. So the forces of impurity said, we're not allowing this neshama to come down. It's too powerful. It's too strong. So they made a compromise that Avram would be born to Terach, and the Medrash says Terach's wife's name.
No, Terach was like, I'm not that bad of a guy. My son's Abraham.
Exactly. I can kill whatever it is. Hello, my kids.
Like guys, we're not that bad.
So it says
our great grandchild.
It says that Avram was born. His father manufactured idols. Father sold idols. His own father gave him up to be killed.
Yeah.
And not only that, the Medrash goes even further. That we know a woman is impure when she's menstruating.
That's how
She had a period.
That's how they got pregnant. Abraham
it says,
was a
it says
product of-
something miraculous happened, which really it's impossible for a woman to get pregnant. But you got when she was in a state of most impurity, that's when that's when Avram was conceived.
That's not necessarily true. There are times when a woman just takes one egg and in the middle of menstruation has another egg.
Really? I
Yes.
thought it was impossible.
Yeah, that's
Don't believe me. I didn't even say the holiday last night.
They could be
You
flushed
know
out.
women.
Right.
An imbalance in hormones and that'll happen.
I run. The imbalance of hormones has nothing to do with it.
Can I just, it's like three different aspects and I want to understand if I'm getting it right. Sitra Achra is an external influence that convinces your Yetzer Hara to perform Avodah Zarah.
Well, that's an extreme.
Is that
yeah.
in the dynamic of those three? Did I get that right? Is that sentence accurate?
Yeah. So we learned in chapter 8 or 9 that a Jew's evil inclination is
Yetzer Hara.
we'll call it that. If not for the existence of impurity, for let's say,
Sitra Achra.
or even any, let's call it impurity. A Jew would not sin, because the reality of a Jew is Torah. Meaning the concept of sin is a foreign influence. The Sitra Achra's job is and Yetzer Hara's job is to try to convince.
One second.
The Yetzer Hara's job.
That's internally inside of you.
Yes, but the Yetzer Hara's job is to convince you that the Sitra Achra, the forces that contend with, hey, the forces that contend with godliness are of equal value. So Sitra Achra are the forces that contend with godliness. The Yetzer Hara is a voice inside of you.
You have Yetzer Tov and you have Yetzer Hara.
That's inside of you.
We need
Those are both sides of you.
Right. The Sitra Achra, one second. Hashem created, this go back to chapter 6. Hashem created the world, one second, I'm going to get into. Hashem created the world in a perfect balance. So there's forces of good and forces of evil. Now our job is to see through the veil of forces of evil, through the stupidity of forces of evil.
Echad keneged hasheni. Midah keneged midah.
So Yetzer Hara is trying to show you that this is of equal value than that. And Yetzer Hara Tov, your good inclination is saying, what are you, an idiot? How could you possibly value this temporary pleasure or high compared to mitzvah?
You can do avodah zara or avodah kedusha.
Yes.
And you have a Yetzer Tov and you have a Yetzer Hara.
So the Yetzer Hara
and
is
you have a
trying.
Sitra Achra and you have a Sitra Kedusha.
Yes. So the Yetzer Hara is trying to convince you that the avodah zara, right, doing something not for God's sake, is of equal value and is just as important as doing something for God's sake.
I wanted to get
that's
that.
his job, which is a facade, which is stupid. The Yetzer Tov is trying to show you, said, put down the bottle. What are you smoking? It's like, are you seeing what I'm saying? How can you possibly do that? That's what he's saying here. Yeah. Ron.
Okay, we need the animal instinct too.
Yeah. It's important.
I think the godly instinct, it's like...
No, what you're saying is...
like when you drive, in the old days you ride a horse, you need to tell the horse where to go.
100%. Ron, you're making a very good point. The godly soul needs the animal soul. Because the godly soul has nothing to do with the body.
It needs
the
to
godly
ride
soul
on it.
needs, exactly, to utilize the animal soul. The problem is when you let the horse control. You should ride the horse.
You gotta break the Mustang.
Yeah. By the way, there's a story.
Run wild.
There's a story, by the way, with the.
Cowboy.
By the way, there's a story. I wanted to finish chapter 29 tonight. I ain't having it. So there's a story. Yeah, I can't. I have to go to Miami. I have to go to Miami Beach.
There's a story.
So there's a
Can we
story
come?
with the Alter Rebbe when he came to Mezrich to learn, and he had permission only for 6 months. In the olden days, when the scholars were supported by the father-in-laws, they had to get permission from their father-in-law to leave. You couldn't just go forever. I think it was 6 months or whatever it was. So when he was getting ready to leave, his study partner, who was a Maggid Mezrich's son, his name was Avram the Angel, told the wagon driver, He says the two versions to the story. He said, "Daf shmeisen the fair. You have to hit the horse, business of this, until he knows that he's a horse." That's one version. Other version is you have to hit the horse until he's not a horse anymore. And when Alter Rebbe heard that, he said that's a whole new path in the service of Hashem, and he got off the wagon. The idea is not only to ride the horse, to control it. The idea is to whip your Yitzhahara until it knows it's a horse and doesn't even dare have, a horse doesn't talk to a person. The shmeis in the ferd. You have to crush your horse. That's what they're doing in this pasuk, in this parak. When a piece of wood is too thick, you crack it. Yet the shmeis in the ferd. That's pretty much what we're doing here. Yeah. Doesn't mean literally hurt yourself. Like, not promoting over here, those Christians with
No, but it is
Shiites.
No, it is painful. It's a hard work.
And I was talking.
Any change is painful.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody this
Any
past
growth has
week,
to be-
last week, this week.
Can come from the
They're saying they're trying to lose weight
change.
and it's having a hard time. I say, you got to lessen your calorie intake. They said, what do you expect me to be hungry? I say, yeah. In the beginning, when you're dieting, you're going to have to get used to being hungry. That's part of it. Yeah, that's yeah. In the beginning, it's painful. Yeah, but then you get accustomed to it, and then you want to lose. Yeah, you got. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Let's get back into the text.
By the way, it's a healthy thing to experience hunger.
Yeah.
It creates a proper balance of hormones.
Yeah. Therefore, going back into the text. So there's because the tumah, the forces of evil, don't exist for itself. They exist to serve something else. So the moment that purpose is realized, I often compare it to a UPS driver. The guy comes to your house and delivers the package. What does he do afterwards? Leave.
Take a picture.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Right. Leave. If the UPS driver hangs around, he's a creep. You used your purpose. No. Goodbye. So the purpose of a Sitra Achra is only to stand the test, for you to stand the test. But therefore, the moment you reveal holiness, it's totally nullified before holiness. Just like darkness is totally gone before light. The problem is that regarding the godly soul of a person, so it's like the bee shouldn't be able to fly. The forces of impurity shouldn't be able to contend with the forces of holiness. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Chemically speaking, it shouldn't be. It can be. But just like we learned by the plague of darkness shouldn't be able to freeze a person. The Egyptians have been able to move, but God made a miracle, so to speak, that they couldn't move in the darkness. So the same thing is, God, in order for us to have free choice, God allows the spirit of impurity to contend, but only on a surface level. In order that the person is in order the person should be able to be inspired to overpower it, to lower it. Hashem allows it to rise up in order for it for us to send it down. But nivza be'end of nimas and be despicable. Someone once came to the Rebbe and said, it's not. Why is life so hard? You're contending with Yitzhahara. He says because and the kid, I think it was a kid. I think it was by bar mitzvah lesson. He said, so you like sports? He says, yeah. So he says, so why? He says, why do you have to have two teams? He says, what's your favorite team? She said, yeah, without another team opposing you, and there's no competition. So the Rebbe said, yeah, exactly. Life is like a sports game. If there's no team on the field, then it's meaningless. There's a team there, but only so you should win. Now,
But here he's saying basically, Rabbi, that you actually need to, by lowering yourself, he's saying by lowering yourself, you get to the ability to be able
what
to
part of yourself? Lowering what part of yourself?
The rucho, v'nemichat rucho.
But what part of you? It depends what you're talking about. Why do you do Averis is because you put too much value on your bodily self and not enough value on your godly self. So we're saying there's going back to the beginning of the chapter. When you lower the value of your bodily self, right? We're saying that beginning of the chapter, the guy is dealing with a problem. He's trying to contemplate a godliness. He is contemplating a godliness. and he's not feeling inspired. It's not soaking through. So we say, no, the problem is you feel yourself too much. You're too thick. You're too coarse. So you have to crush yourself. Lower yourself, lower your value, get over yourself a little bit, in order.
The pride, the ego.
Yeah. And then humble yourself. Yeah.
Anava.
Yeah, but also say because you're way too excited. Now, what happens? So Hashem sitting there, and he sees that you're trying, and you've invested heavily in godly things. Although you were invested responsibly. Although some guy came over to you and says, I got a bridge to sell you. It looks very good, a boat, which is, that's the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is a used car salesman. He dresses it up, but it's a lemon underneath. So Asus Losato, when Hashem sees that we're working hard to crush the Sitra Achra, Asus Leila, Hashem gets inspired. Lakai Mashakosov, and Hashem, to fulfill what it says in Avadia, Avadia was a convert of Edom. Edom is Rome. Edom is one of the people that very arrogant, and he prophesies about the future. Titus. Titus is Titus.
No, Vadia was under days.
I know. Hold on a second. 1 second. So Titus came into the second temple. He said, "God, where's your God? Who's going to defend you?" And he took a sword and he stabbed it into the curtain separating the Holy of Holies. Right? He walked in. Said, "Where's nothing here?" And he did some very, very terrible things in the Holy of Holies. And so one of the things Avadia prophesies about Titus and about the end says, you think you're so great. Hashem says, I'm going to bring you down to Hainu. What does that mean? This means that he deprives the forces of impurity from its dominion and power. In the end of days, Hashem is going to remove that permission that he gave to it, like to contend, to view it as equals to the godly soul. The azai, and then memela, automatically it's going to be dismissed because the forces of impurity don't have value in itself. It only serves a purpose. The moment it serves a purpose, Hashem says, "Okay, you're gone." Just like darkness before the light. So let me ask you this question: is the world really a bad place, a dark place, or really a good place?
Good place.
Good place.
So if you look at the world, it's a bad place, and we're trying to make it. But we learned the world is really a good. God created the world. The world was full of godliness, right? So it's like we mentioned, we said that tonight's the Rebbe's birthday, and the Rebbe's, when he became Rebbe, he said the Maimer Basi Lagani Achaysikala. I came to my garden. Right? It says Lagani Lagnuni, to the place of I originally was, and the Medrash says that the world was originally a good place, and then we messed it up. So the world is really good, and it was contaminated. So what do you got to do? You got to remove the contaminant and revert the world back to its pristine state. So what's going to happen when Mashiach comes? It's not that like the Rambam says. Some people think, I don't know, we're all going to grow wings, and I don't know what's going to happen. Right? We're all going to get a Mercedes. I don't know what.
Oprah show.
Right? You get exactly. You get a car, right?
I don't want a Mercedes.
So the Rambam says.
Everything goes from point.
She's not on TV now, right?
Not anymore.
Nah, it can't be. The Rambam says.
The Orpa show.
No, we're not getting there. So the Rambam says, "Olam kimin haginoig." The Rambam famously quotes the Gemara: "The world is going to go like normal." What do you mean normal? Everyone says that's not. If everyone's doing mitzvahs the whole day, how's that normal? The problem is you got so messed up. You think this is normal. That's your problem. That's our problem. We think this is normal. So we're learning in Tanya that the world's normal is really a godly, good place. What's going to happen is Hashem is going to take this, remove the. And I once saw a commercial for products, and it said, everyone. Can you pass me the box for a second? So you go to the supermarket. It shows their product, and they dress it up in different colors and everything else. No one does this. No one puts the nutrition facts out. Why? Because they don't want you to see that it's full of sodium and garbage and everything, and all that. If they did this, they wouldn't sell any packages of Fruity Loops, honey, bunches of oats, and all that garbage, right? So Golus, exile, Yitzhar is, look at me, I'm colorful. So Mashiach comes, Hashem's going to do this. Just look at the nutrition facts, just the facts, man. Right?
You got that.
Yeah, and automatically we're not going to buy that garbage. Why would you? It's full of garbage. It says I'm not making fun of my Shabbat. But it's only flour and water. It's nothing else in there.
This class is brought to you by.
Exactly. Strites.
Right.
This class is brought to you by Strites.
Pink
You know.
stripes, get the big box.
Where are we? I say, just like we find Davers Dem before Shbetayra Gavim Meraglim. The Alter is going to say, we find an interesting phenomenon by the Meraglim. Shemdchila Amru, in the beginning of the story of the Meraglim, yeah, almost, right? In the beginning of the story of the Meraglim, they said they can't go to Israel. They said, why? Because it's too strong. They said, even God can't conquer the land of Israel. Yeah, God can conquer Egypt. But imagine, they were in such a state of stupidity, they said, God can't help us. The line of the Gemara is, even the owner can't take the vessels out of the house. It's a loy yaminu b'Hashem. They didn't believe in Hashem's ability. And then immediately following the story, at the end of the story, we're ready to go up. The Alter Rebbe says, why all of a sudden now they believe in God's ability? 5 minutes ago they said God can't. All of a sudden now God can. Rach, what happened? Says, we don't find in the Torah that Moshe showed them a miracle that changed their mind. Rak only he said, only Hashem, Moshe told them that Hashem's angry. And Hashem said, we're not bringing you into the land. And who cares? If they didn't believe Hashem could bring them into the land anyway, why should they care if God says God's angry? Who? The God that you think is not able to bring you into the land? To conquer the 31 kings, and they didn't want to go into the land. What happened? Ella. So what happened was over here is, why didn't they believe? Did they not believe because they really didn't believe? No, they were in a state of stupidity. They were in a state of stupidity. What happened? Hashem turned it back, and all of a sudden the light was turned on, and they saw very clearly. Because all Jews are believers. There's no such thing as a Jew who doesn't believe. A Jew can say he doesn't believe. I also can say 2 + 2 is 5. Right? You can say, right? What happened in the story of the spies? The story of the spies goes, Moshe said, we're going to the land of Israel. These 10 guys come and say, we're not going to go. Let me ask you a question. If you had Moshe Rabbeinu and 10 guys, whose opinion would you take? 10 out of 10, you're taking Moshe. So what could possibly be going through your mind? And again, this is the Moshe that split the sea, took him out of Egypt, gave them the Torah, survived Sinai 3 times without eating, 40 days and 40 nights. The man, the water from the rock. I can continue going. You guys get the point, right? So what happened? So why wouldn't you believe Moshe? Because you're stupid, right? Is there any other plausible explanation? You're stupid. That's all. So
not equivalent. It's not an equivalent to what they are describing earlier in Tanya as a spirit of folly, right?
No, that is spirit of folly. This is the spirit of folly. The spirit of folly is when you think that Moshe's opinion is equal to someone else's opinion.
Korach, for instance.
Korach was different. Korach was very, very different because Korach actually was a very smart guy and he actually had a very convincing argument.
That's not about it.
No,
That
that's
be
not
a
it.
perfect example. It's not. It wouldn't work.
But I think, the Meraglim are a better example because
Yeah.
the Meraglim. Why would you? Only in a fool's world do you believe that Moshe's opinion, this guy's opinion? Pause the video for a second. So what happens?
Oh, there's the pause. Yeah.
Ah,
There's a pause.
see? See? My mama didn't raise no fool.
I didn't see.
See, there you go. Anyway, so what happens is only because the 10 spies to come and say, hey, no, we also have an opinion. How can you say I also have an opinion, Kon Moshe? I remember. I think I told the story once. My friend.
Did you say Kon Moshe?
It says this guy told me my study partner guys come on.
Is that Yiddish, English, Hebrew?
Told me a story
Oh, I know it.
that his father, shliach in Scotland, was learning with a guy, and he said he was learning Gemara, and the guy says Rashi says this, but I say, and my friend's father say in his proper British accent, he says, I closed the book and I told him, I'm sorry, I am not worthy to learn with somebody on Rashi's level. Really, you have an opinion with Rashi? I mean, if someone says that, then there's no conversation. Well, you're an idiot. Sorry. You don't get an opinion. When Rashi gives an opinion, you don't have an opinion. When Moshe has an opinion, who else has an opinion? Right? And it's clear as day. So how come they didn't do it? Too stupid. It happens. But the moment we you see it says here, b'skasus ruach, with arrogance and haughtiness, but chutzpah is what's chutzpah? No, audacity, believe tam v'das, without logic. It says, oh, l'chein, therefore, miyad shekotzav Hashem aleim v'hirim ekol rash v'reges, as soon as Hashem becomes angry, and thundered angrily, and he said, and Hashem tells Moshe, ad mosai le'eda hara zayis, until when was the evil congregation, and Hashem promises rather, in your carcasses will fall in the desert. Ani Hashem dibarti, I am Hashem, I spoke. He says the whole thing. When they hear this, there's revelation of godliness, not in the good way, the bad way. Hashem's anger, they become broken and humbled. He says, the people were mourned and they were very angry. Not angry, so they're very sad. Mela automatically, when do we do stupid things? When we're in a good mood. When you're in a miserable mood, let's say you're not feeling well. Maybe you're sick. Someone says, come, let's go to Vegas.
No, you also do bad things, but it's different. It's just
See, when you feel miserable about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You usually don't do bad things when you feel miserable about yourself.
But that is a bad thing too, right?
Yeah, I'm giving an example physically, right? Someone says, hey, let's go to the club. Yeah. No, a guy has the flu. Let's go to the club. You feel miserable about yourself, you're not going to the club, right? So automatic, when they feel miserable about themselves, yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, hey, you want to dance with me? So as soon as the people feel miserable about themselves in a bad way, then automatically the stupidity falls away. And Al Rebbe tells you it's not something they had to introduce to themselves. Because just like the world was good, right? It was messed up. The Jewish people are good. They believe in God. And sometimes they do something stupid. So what do? You remove the stupidity, and the holy Jew comes out. This, by the way, tonight's the Rebbe's birthday. This was the Rebbe's his whole approach. You go to a Jew, ask him to do a mitzvah. Someone said, hey, but this guy hasn't kept kosher his whole life. What are you going to bother with a mitzvah? The guy's mitzvah is worth nothing. So you say, that's you if you believe the Jew starts as, let's say, gray, and you're trying to make him holy. But if you believe the Jew's holy, he always was holy, and you're just trying to reveal the holiness, it's a whole different point of view. Then it's filled in as holy is holy. Finishing off the chapter. And from this story, a person could learn. Let's say, for example, a guy it doubts. The guy has doubts in faith. Doubts. Where's it coming from? It's not coming from inside of you. It's coming from outside of you because you're a Jew. You automatically believe. I'm like,
Rambam calls it Sdakim ba'emunah.
Stakim?
Sdakim, Sedek. Samech Dalet Kuf.
Samach or Tzadik Dalet Kuf?
Samech. Sdakim. Like a crack.
A crack. Oh, I'm saying.
Crack in the emunah.
Yeah, but even a crack is superficial. It's not a true crack. It's superficial. Yes, it is, because he said, Alter was saying over here, because Yisrael asked him, because this, by the way, is brought down as a matter of standard law. A Jewish person they believe. By the way, according to halacha, if a guy says to a woman, I betroth you on the condition that I'm righteous, it's a good betrothal. You have no idea. If he did teshuvah, probably he did teshuvah. Right? So the fact that a Jew is inherently good, that is standard in halacha. V'gam setrach ra'atzma, and even the forces of impurity itself, ein lo sfikas klal b'muna. Remember, the forces of impurity are employed by God to lend resistance to the Jew. That means the forces of impurity, they themselves don't believe as to be an opponent to God. They're not a true opponent. They're placed there. You know, it's almost like when you're boxing, you have to hire a sparring partner. I pay your salary. Why? I need someone to spar with. So the sparring partner, the Sitra Achra, itself believes in God. Rashi, Nisan Leil Rishus. Hashem has given it permission, L'Babel Adam, to confuse a person with Divrei Sheker, with falseness, mirma, and deceit, L'Harber Schore, in order to increase its reward. 392, and this we quoted this example in chapter 9, where remember the king wants to test the fortitude of his son, the prince. So what does he do? He hires a woman of ill repute to entice the son. But the king wants the son to win. Even the woman of ill repute wants the son to win. But she's got to do a job. It's similar to the harlot to attend the Ben HaMelech to seduce the son. B'sheker, lives, Mirma, B'shus HaMelech. Right? That's what you got to do. You always got to think, the Eibishter put me here, and there's a challenge. But every challenge is to grow. And you got to call out stupidity for what it is. Everyone have a good week.
So today's lesson is that anyone you disagree with, you can call stupid.
Everyone's stupid.
Yeah.
It says, have a chag kasher v'sameach, and only good things. Yeah.